Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being on with us as part of our 75th anniversary seminar series. We have a wonderful seminar and some wonderful Pera legends on with us today. And hopefully we can pick their brain and see how it was during their tenure as executive directors with Pera. Some housekeeping issues. Everyone is automatically muted. If you do have a question, you can always raise your hand using the raise your hand feature. We will be opening it up for Q&A as well, so you'll definitely have an opportunity to ask any questions that you have for our panelists today. In honor of National Donut Day, we wanted to keep with the theme. Just like last month's seminar, it was National Pizza Party Day, so we're totally trying not to make you guys hungry. But it's definitely part of the, I think, Americans' favorite food group, pizza and donuts. So can't go wrong with that. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with some questions just to get everybody's mind and stomachs ready for today. The first question is, what is your favorite type of donut? And we put some options for you all. Second question, how many billions of donuts are made in a year? So we're gonna test your trivia today. And then the third question, what's the healthiest part of a donut? So we're gonna go ahead and allow you guys to go ahead and answer these. We'll give you a few moments. I was gonna put chains, which is your favorite donut chain, but I think that would start a donut war. So we don't wanna start any wars today. Perfect. Okay. Alrighty, so in the interest of time, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it. I'm going to end the poll. It looks like chocolate was our #1 donut with 50% of the votes. So I did give you a trivia. So it looks like you guys were on it and it wasn't 20 billion. So there's actually 10 billion donuts made in a year, which is incredible. And then I'm sure all of you, guess this, what's the healthiest part of the donut? And that's the middle. So thank you guys for participating. We like to make these a little bit fun. So just to give you guys a little bit of background before we actually segue into introducing our panelists today, we wanted to just give you just some information on the Pera Act. So the Pera Act, if you didn't know, it was enacted in 1947 and it didn't become effective until August 1st of 1947. So again, hence why we are celebrating our 75th anniversary here at Pera. As part of the act, it did ask for 7 board members. It had to consist of a state auditor, state treasurer, secretary of state, and 4 chosen employees. As part of the board's responsibility, they had to appoint a chairman and a secretary. So thank goodness to Christina's eagle eye with our statutes, a secretary was actually a director, and that wasn't changed until 1997, which is kind of crazy because we've had directors since then. So just some little history for you guys. The first secretary or first Pera director was Epimeno Ramirez. He was our executive director from 1947 to 1953. Even this information was really hard for us to uncover. We were definitely putting on our Sherlock Holmes hats since last year. But we have been able to find some newspaper clippings of some of the first information that Mr. Ramirez had shared in regard to Pera. So from an Albuquerque Journal article in April 1948, Mr. Epimeno Ramirez, along with his chair, Mr. Ormsby, shared that the total fund value at that time was $170,000. There were 60 Pera-affiliated employers, and it mentioned something in there that the first eligible retirees wouldn't be able to claim their benefit until August of 1949, so 2 years from the official enactment of the Pera Act. So some pretty interesting information that we're able to find to kind of give you some history and then to kind of put things in perspective as to where we are today. We have 31 different membership plans. We have 335 public employers throughout the state of New Mexico. And in 2021, the average annual pension was $31,011. We now have 2 different tiers. And our current, I have to kind of see, and maybe Greg, you can correct me on this one. but the Pera Trust Fund currently has a total fund value of $18.3 billion. We were very proud during the pandemic. We hit an all-time high and have been able to keep it close to that. So kudos to our investments team, our board, and anyone that has a hand in that. And then also currently we have a 5-year vesting period. So as you can see from 1947 till today, we've made some headway, and that is all thanks to leadership that has been, in process since 1947. Today, well, we serve over 47,000 active members and over 42,000 retirees and beneficiaries. And also 92% of the 1.33 billion in retirement benefits paid out in fiscal year 2021 were to retirees living in New Mexico. So something we're very proud of to say that 92% of that funds for our retirees stayed here in New Mexico. So we're going to get right to it after kind of looking at a little bit of some Pera's history. We are going to be sitting down. I hope you have your donuts and your coffee ready to go. We're going to be talking with our panelists today. So our first panelist is going to be Alice Herder. Our second panelist is going to be Terry Slattery. And our third panelist is going to be Greg Trujillo. So first off, we're going to go ahead and start off with Miss Alice Herder. So Miss Alice, based off of the research that we have from us today, and you can correct me, you started off as our very first female executive director and our only female executive director back in 1995. So can you tell us a little bit about your time as executive director at that time and what it was like?
Okay. I think your information is generally correct. I was there for about 6 years as executive director, but prior to that, I was general counsel for PERA. So I had some background about the agency when I came in whatever year, 1994, did you say? I can't even remember the years, but anyway, yeah, I love the mission of the agency because I think it has helped people. It's helped people to be able to retire and have sufficient funding to live on. And in a state like New Mexico, I don't know what it is like now, but at that time, we had, our pension system is very good, and I believe it still is, but our salaries generally were lower than the national average. So it was really helpful to people when they were retiring that not only did they get Social Security, because in some states you cannot get both a state pension and Social Security, but in New Mexico, we were able to do that. We were able to hold on to that because that was questioned at various times. So that was something that I really appreciated, the fact that, we were really trying to help people have a livable lifestyle. And so that was very important. You had asked me about accomplishments during that period of time. One of the, I thought, really outstanding accomplishments during that time was we were able to successfully get an amendment to the New Mexico State Constitution to protect the retirement fund. Up until that time, the retirement fund was created by laws of the legislature. And so the legislature could change those laws at any time by a vote of the legislature, of course. And so we were concerned because we didn't want it to be a political football, basically. We wanted to have some constancy in the system. And we worked very hard. I had a lot of help. We had to go statewide to explain to the members why this was important and to get their support in actively pursuing the various legislators from their district so that when they came to Santa Fe, because in order to get the constitutional amendment, the first step was the legislature had to approve putting that issue on the ballot. And then, of course, once it's on the ballot, then you have to educate the public at large and get their support to vote yes on that amendment. It took us several years to actually get all of that done, but we were able to successfully pass that by a very large margin, by the way. So we were very happy. And in doing that, I had a good board that was very supportive of that. And then the membership was very supportive. We had a lot of support from both retirees and active members, a lot of support from the police and the firefighters. And so there was a lot of camaraderie that built at that time, and a lot of positive energy about our retirement system. So that's one of the things that I feel that one of the things, what areas in which I feel we were successful, and I feel glad about that fact.
Most definitely. And I think that energy has definitely, the positive energy has passed down since then. And I think everything that you mentioned as far as the legislature going in and kind of advocating for everything, definitely paved the way for all of us, and it's still continuing strong. So hopefully that makes you happy to hear.
Of course it does.
So our next panelist is Mr. Terry Slattery. And Mr. Slattery, based on our research as well, it looks like you started in 2001. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So tell us about your time as the executive director at that time and what it was like for you.
Well, during my 10 years at Pera, it was very interesting. As you mentioned, I started 2001. In fact, it was June of 2001. So as you know, 9/11 occurred in 2001, and we coincidentally had a board meeting on that day. And so driving in, you hear all this just crisis of what's going on in New York. And so we were concerned about having a board meeting on 9/11. But in talking with the chair and talking with public safety, they decided that it's best that we just go on with the meeting. The instruction was if anything looked odd during that day, just close down the building. Well, you know, on most board days, something looked odd, you know, just as normal occurrence. So that wasn't very helpful, but we did get through. We had some of our vendors that were stuck in Santa Fe for almost a week trying to get out. You know, the airports were shut down, and some of them just ended up having to rent cars. So it was definitely a very exciting time, even though we were so far away from where the Twin Towers were. It was just the nature of the beast of what was going on throughout the country regarding 9/11. So during my period, we had two significant downturns in the market. 2001, where the small caps really took a beating and it brought down the market. But our investment group, led by Bob Gish, were smart enough to realize that we needed to move money to cash. So we looked like we really knew what we were doing, and we were ranked at one of the very top of pension funds around the country. But then 2008 came, and as we had done so well between 2002 and 2008, we were probably at the very high end of our ranges for equities. And so when 2008 came, we got probably hit the hardest, and we weren't able to move any money out before the downturn. So, you know, one time you look like you really know what you're doing, and the second time you really get beat up. So it's just a lesson, I would say, to stick with your guns and follow your process and stick with your plan, and don't try to beat the market, because it's not going to happen. Also during my tenure, as you said, we have the building project, new Pera building that lasted approximately from 2007 to 2009. We were at the time proud of the results, and hopefully the staff and the board and the membership are still proud of the building that we created. And then finally, the last thing I would mention is that we created a computer system called the Rio System back in the mid 2000s. I don't know if it still exists, but at the time it was a state-of-the-art system, and it served us well from what system we had prior to that. So that's the highlights of what took place during the 10 years I was at Pera.
Well, awesome. Yes. So Rio is definitely going strong. And our IT director, along with Greg, they do a wonderful job of making improvements with their team, Jessica Perea and everyone on her team. And so, yeah, it's still a wonderful, much used system. And, a lot of new features for members to upload forms now and to change their address. So a lot of features that weren't available in the last few years have definitely made their way, and we love our building. So thank you so much for being part of that. It's kind of crazy. A lot of people still think we're in the old Pera building. So we always have to remind people that we're at our new building down at the end of Cerrillos, and so we're going to do a whole thing on the old Pera building in October. I don't know if you had ever encountered and you as well, Miss Herder, any ghost encounters there.
La Llorona.
So we're hoping to do some stories and stuff in October. So we'll have to definitely pick your guys' brains on that.
I think what you'll have to do is you'll have to try to find some of the support staff, the maintenance guys that we had 24/7 maintenance guys, and some of them claim that they've heard some strange sounds and that. So I don't know how you get a hold of them, but they're the guys that get a hold of.
Definitely. I know we've already had people reach out, so you never know. It could be one of them.
Could be.
Yes, so perfect. So our next panelist is Mr. Greg Trujillo. So he is our current executive director. And a fun fact about him as well is he used to be our deputy director. And he is, I believe, off of our research, he is our youngest executive director at Pera. So Mr. Greg, can you talk a little bit about your role here today and what you would consider some of your accomplishments while you've been with Pera?
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, I started with Pera in September of 2013 as the deputy director, just after the first round of pension reform. I believe it was Senate Bill 27 that was passed in that prior session. So got the permanent position in September of last year. So going on almost 9 years with Pera in total. Prior to that, I was with the Educational Retirement Board for a little over 10 years. The last job I left there, I was the Chief Information Officer. So came here with a lot of operational background, worked a lot on the Rio System. It is still going. It is still, it's accurate. It's kind of our bread and butter. So we keep upgrading, and we're hoping to not transition to a new system anytime, at least as long as I'm here, because as Terry knows, those conversions are not they're not fun.
No.
So a couple accomplishments. I was part of the team that got Senate Bill 72 passed. That was a pension reform that was passed in the 2020 legislative session. We are currently moving into year 3 of what is a 6-year implementation. Again, not fun, raising members' contribution rates, cutting people's COLAs, not fun, but as Alice had spoke earlier, it makes us solvent and gives our members that kind of financial security that Pera is going to be around paying their benefits for generations to come, hopefully. Talking about buildings, we didn't build a building, but modeled a building in Albuquerque at the height of COVID. So it was about a 2-year project working with our investment group. We actually purchased a building, and it's part of our investment portfolio. So very nice area in the Journal Center, single-story building, and we actually share that office now with the Retiree Healthcare Authority. So both in our Santa Fe office, because of the extra space Terry was speaking about earlier, we've got a handful of retiree healthcare staff that work in our building that we lease space to, and the same arrangement in the Albuquerque office. So it's very helpful for our members when they can come and see us and just go across the hall and get their retiree healthcare, information taken care of. Other accomplishment I'm very proud is how Pera responded during COVID, during the pandemic. We were able to transition to remote work quickly. We had done some pretty significant investments in our technology, in our equipment, in our systems. And, we were more lucky than anything else. I believe the week before the world shut down, we had converted, we had a big infrastructure project going. So upgraded our firewalls. That weekend before is when we actually cut over. The next week, we actually had to put it into action and get people set up remotely with access. And it was pretty seamless. Took a little bit to get some folks equipment, but payroll ran as it did. We were still answering member calls. We were processing retirement applications, processing refunds. So yeah, the staff and the systems worked as we had hoped, as we intended. It's always nice when you plan for something and it actually comes to fruition. So those are kind of the big things I've been happy with so far, and looking forward to doing more.
Thank you. And I think everyone can sit here and say that the pandemic was just, none of us had ever gone through something like that. And so Greg did such a wonderful job and was such a wonderful leader along with Wayne, and kept us on track, and we're still going. So thank you, Greg, for that introduction and everything. Ms. Herder, so I had mentioned earlier that you were our first female executive director and our only female executive director. So what advice would you ever pass on to aspiring female leaders in the public sector?
Well, my advice to female leaders in the public sector is the same as my advice would be to females in other sectors in various jobs. And that is that I think women need to help other women. And, the only way women are going to advance, there are men who are helpful as well, but women need to be helping other people, other women especially, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's through helping them have the courage to reach out and grab a job that they may feel they were not quite right for. Women have a tendency to want everything to be sort of perfectly in place before they take that leap. And it's never perfectly in place, but women need to, have courage to try things, and they do. Women do, I believe. I'm a great supporter of women. I like men too. I have nothing against that. But as far as in trying to balance, in our country today, there has been progress. There's been lots of progress. We talked about being a legend. I'm an old lady, so I've seen a lot of progress that women have made, all the way from the Equal Rights Amendment. A lot of that, some of that trying to be taken away from us. But I think women need to help other women rather than feel in competition with them. And sometimes that does happen because by advancing women when they have the qualifications and the potential, it gives other women the courage to take those steps for themselves. So I think women need to just take the leap and continue to try to get into positions that they feel they really would like to have, and not be discouraged by the fact that I was the first female in the executive director's position, which was I really enjoyed the position. I was very fortunate. I worked with really good people. And as I say, I love the mission of our agency. I love the fact that we work together to make I believe, some really positive accomplishments. But it takes men and women. But, I especially like to see women encouraging other women and mentoring other women to give them the confidence that sometimes is not always there to reach out and go forward. So from an old lady, that's my advice.
You are not an old lady. Thank you so much for that knowledge. And here at Pera, we're huge advocates for mentoring. So I'm a definite advocate of that as well. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery, next question for you. So after you left from Pera, you went off to I believe, become another executive director of another retirement system. Can you talk a little bit about that and how maybe it was different from Pera here in New Mexico?
Yes, I can, Christina. I am from the Midwest, and so getting on in my career, my goal was to get back to the Midwest to be closer to family. And so I was able to become a director of a system called the Municipal Fire and Police Retirement System of Iowa. And so it is there's two public funds in Iowa, and I governed the smaller of the two. IPERS is the large statewide system. Ours covered municipal fire and police of various towns around the state. We only had 8,000 members. We only had $2 billion in assets. And so there were two reasons to take that job. One was, as I said, to get back to my roots geographically, and the other was to get back to my roots organizationally, because we only had 10 employees, including myself. And so I was the director as well as the chief investment officer. So I got to have my hands on the investment decisions along with the board and just get into the day-to-day operation, where, as Greg and Alice can tell you, when you're at Pera and you've got such a big organization, you do the executive director job, and that's a full-time job. So it was nice to get back, to roll up my sleeves and actually work on records, work with members directly. And so that was the main rationale behind my move from Pera to Iowa. And I'm still in Iowa. It's a nice place to visit. So y'all ought to come sometime.
Definitely. Well, great. I'm glad you were able to go back to your home roots and to give back down there as well, Mr. Slattery.
Thank you.
And before
Perfect. So-
moving on, Christina, Terry, you came to Pera from another pension fund as well, right?
I did. Over my career, I was at 5 different pension funds, the Missouri State Fund, 2 in California, 2 county funds, then Pera, and now Iowa. And so I'm drawing 5 pension benefits as well as Social Security. So life is good.
My idol.
We're not going to ask you which one is your favorite.
Oh, Pera by far, because the benefit is so good. I mean, my gosh, it's just it's a wonderful system, and the benefit allows me to be able to do what I want and not have to worry about struggling in retirement. So it serves the goal of giving security to our members as well as people who work for the system. So it's a very good thing.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that, because I think a lot of times our members don't know how rich our plan is. And so to actually hear from you who, you, like you said, you're receiving benefits from 5 different retirement systems, it's kind of very good, or I guess, I don't know the word, reassuring to hear. So thank you for sharing that with us.
You're quite welcome.
So Greg, after hearing from Alice and Terry, as our current executive director, what are some future goals that you have in mind for Pera? And what are 3 things that you would like Pera members to know about Pera?
Okay. Yeah, the first thing, talking about how great our benefit is and how we take care of our members, it's the biggest priority is keeping that benefit going. So as I mentioned, Senate Bill 72, the pension reform in 2020, my biggest priority is seeing that fully implemented. Like I said, we're moving in now in July, will be the 3rd year of a 6-year implementation. This will be the final year of, we replace the monthly cost of living adjustment to our members or to our retirees with a 13th check This will be the final year of that 13th check. So, the retirees have done what they said they were going to do. My priority is make sure that the state continues increasing their contributions, and this will be the first year that municipalities and counties kind of share in those contribution increases. So it's just making sure everybody that was at the table, we do what we said we were going to do, and I think that puts us long term on a trajectory that we're hopefully not having to go through pension reform again. It's not fun, but just making sure that our members, both active and retired, stay solvent. We've done a pretty good job with the Rio system that Terry had spoken about. We've done a lot of upgrades. We've worked with our employers to make sure the data they're reporting to us is accurate. We've worked on the relationship with the employers, so nobody should have any issues reporting to us. We've got a great group in our contribution accounting unit that takes care of our employers. So just making sure that data is accurate, and our members can kind of count on it is one of my priorities. Just keeping sure that data is good, because that's people's livelihoods. And then the other priority is to keep just building our team and investing in them. We've got a very diverse group. They understand the mission. The majority of them are local to New Mexico. My father retired last year. A number of aunts and uncles that are retiring, I hope to retire, and our staff shares that mentality. So, working for Pera is more than just a job. They understand what we do and how critical it is to New Mexico, to our families, to our friends. So it's just continuing to build a team to keep passing that mission on to them and investing in them. We've been fortunate. We don't have a whole lot of turnover. We're able to promote a number of people. We've had a front desk position that I believe all but one, since I've started, has moved up in the organization. Our customer service manager, Greg Holmes, started as our front desk person, and now he runs our excellent customer service team. So it's just being able to promote, being able to recruit, and hopefully keep people here and invest in them. So those are kind of my biggest priorities going forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. And like Greg said, it's so true. We actually even have a little handout now for the 75th anniversary, and it's called your Pera Ancestry Tree. And you can literally go and name aunts and uncles and grandparents and parents who have all retired under Pera. And it's just really neat to see how it really is. It's a family affair here in New Mexico. If you don't know anyone in Pera, then you're probably from out of town or something. So we always say that we are truly invested, because it's our family as well that's under Pera. So thank you so much, Greg. So before we get to our final question, I'm going to spring a question on Alice and Terry. Kind of hearing Greg's goals now that he was speaking, what is some knowledge or some sort of advice as a past executive director that you feel would be beneficial for Greg and any other future executive directors?
So I go first?
Yes, go ahead and go first, Miss Alice.
No, it makes me happy to hear Greg talk about protecting the system so it remains viable and fully funded, so that pensions can be paid into the future, because I have a high regard for public employees. And I think we do a lot of work that goes unheralded and uncomplimented. I mean, we always hear when somebody gets in trouble, but there's a lot of good behind the scenes work that goes on. And I believe that's true at Pera. The one other thing I might say, and this is not directly to you, it's not directed at you, Greg, it's just since I'm the oldest member on this panel, or maybe I should say the most mature person on the panel, maybe it would be helpful to have just a little bit of history. Now, Terry can speak to this at some certain point too. When I first came to, I was general counsel, and at that point in time, for the investment program was all handled pretty much in-house. And one of the changes, major changes, and this was with a great deal of support and consultation with the board, was to take a look at how our investment program was operating and how it could operate most efficiently. And one of the biggest changes we made, and this is not intended to be a negative reflection on anyone, but when you're at that, when you're paying an employee like $44,000 a year to invest in a $1 billion fund, that's a lot of responsibility. And I mean, salaries are better now than they were then. But one of the things that with support from the board, we really did change the investment program, and we hired investment advisors, but we also hired investment companies, and they on a system which was called a performance-based fee. In other words, if we set a milestone for them, in other words, you have to outperform the S&P 500 by 1 percentage point. That's just an example. And if they did, then they got the base that they were committed to. If they outperformed, then they also got an additional amount, which was incentive for them and great incentive for us. And it really did reform our entire investment program, because when I was at Pera, we were investing in things like railroad cars, that were sitting rusted in some rail yard. And so, I mean, that's not a reflection on anybody. It's just that the times change, and the agency, and I can tell from what Greg is saying, that the agency is constantly needing to review and make sure that we are changing and taking it in the right direction. And I use that investment program as an example because it made a huge difference to the fund. I mean, and we were able to take, I mean, you have, as Terry explained, you have downturns in the market, and you have upturns in the market. But overall, you have a philosophy that allows you to capitalize on the upturns and also to remain solvent during the downturns. But I thought I just offered that by way of history, and that was a big step forward. And this the system for self-service system for retirees is a big step forward, and in terms of people being able to obtain their information and obtain it, they can obtain it at 2 o'clock in the morning if they want to be on the computer to obtain it. And so those kinds of things, as we go forward into the future, as the system goes forward into the future, I mean, I'm encouraged to see that people are looking with broad vision to make sure that we continue we have a good program, and by looking into the future and we can keep the program that way. So that would be my advice. I don't even call it advice. That's just my opinion. So anyway, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. How about you, Terry? What advice would you pass down?
Greg, I don't have much advice to give other than, the industry is always changing, and it's easy to get comfortable with just, staying at home in New Mexico and saying we're doing things right. But I would encourage you to stay in tune with the state associations, such as the National Association of State Retirement Administrators, which I know you do, and NCPERS, because they're always on the cutting edge of what's going on in the industry. And that way you can keep on top of it, share it with your management staff, and make sure that what you're doing is what we're supposed to do as executive directors, which I'm glad I got out when I did, because it seems like the industry is just getting more complicated all the time. And I don't envy you, but I admire you for what you're doing, and just keep up the good fight and keep fighting for the system and the members. So good luck to you.
Thank you both. It is appreciated.
Yeah, some really great advice. And so a fun question for Alice and Terry. So now that you are all retired, what are your, pension, our pension system was a passion of yours in the past, but what are your passions today? Alice, we'll start with you.
Well, I've always been a person who had many passions, and some of those I was never able to realize because when you're working as executive director, as Greg and Terry can tell you, that's more than full time. But in my retirement, I always promised myself that there were two things I especially wanted from my retirement. And one was I am actually, it's not generally known, but I'm actually an artist. From the time I was a child, I always drew and painted. And so I promised myself that when I retire, I was going to make space to do that. And I have done that. The second thing that I always wanted to do in retirement was to write. And I am doing that. I'm working on 2 books. So that's been really, really a special time for me to sort of finally be able to sort of, to feed those passions that I've held for a long time, but did not have the independent financial resources to meet them until I retired. So that's been good. Plus I love retirement. I mean, it's great. I encourage you to stay with it until you can retire. I do describe it as the best job I've ever had. And I really feel that way. I mean, it's the time, people are living longer. That makes it more of a challenge for retirement funds, but on an individual basis, as you will someday realize, someday way into the future, but it's just nice to have your own time and to do the social things you want to do, the personal things you want to do. And I feel really fortunate that I've been able to realize that dream. So that's it.
That's wonderful. Well, you're definitely going to have to share your link to your books when you're done with them. We would love to definitely see that.
Okay.
Yes, and good luck with all of that. Terry,
Thank you so
your
much.
passions?
Well, mine is not near that. I don't have a creative bone in my body, so I admire Alice for what she's doing. That sounds great. What I've been able to do is kind of a follow on. Oh, sorry.
Football.
On to being a public employee, and that is to be able to volunteer with my community, to volunteer with my church, to help where there's needs. And I find that although time is short, believe it or not, you hear the people that retired say, I don't know how I was able to work because I'm so busy in retirement. I don't know, I couldn't fit a job into to my spare time. That's kind of what I've found now that, it's just being retired is busy, but I do make time to try to volunteer where I can find the needs and help our community. So that's my passion, and I'm able to do it. And maybe one of these days I'll go back and start swinging a golf club again. But so far I haven't been able to find time. So
Hey, that's not a bad thing. That's awesome. Thank you. And Greg, so you already heard from, I believe it was Alice that said that, being an executive director is an unacknowledgeable, oftentimes, career. And, we don't get to hear as much positive, as we would like, because everything, in the press is always, it can be negative. So, besides being a wonderful executive director for us at Pera, what is something that you're passionate about outside of work?
Sure. So I actually have 4 kids. So a soon-to-be junior son who plays high school basketball. So that's all the time. I have a daughter who's going to be in 8th grade and just made the varsity cheerleading team. And cheerleaders are just beasts. The amount of time they put in. I mean, she does practice 2-3 times a day. I have another daughter who's going to be in 5th grade, and she is now dipping her toe into the cheer waters. So it's practices and picking up and dropping off is crazy. And then my baby, who is 7 years old, is playing baseball. So it's just something constantly going. So not a lot of time for anything else. I also I have fortunate enough to have about an acre and a half of property with an apple orchard, and it just takes an unbelievable amount of work. So if we're not taking kids or picking up kids, usually we're outside trimming trees or irrigating, and it's just it's a lot of work, but it's good to be outside. Hope we can get some rain at some point because it is pretty dry. But it's fun. It's all kids and work.
Hey, you're living the dream, Greg.
Yep.
It's all about.
Wouldn't change it.
Well, awesome. So with that being said, that concludes the questions that we have for our panelists, but we definitely would love to open it up to anybody who's on the seminar today. If you all have a question, you do have the opportunity to raise your hand. And once you raise your hand, we can go ahead and unmute you and you would be able to ask your question. So at this point, we'll go ahead and open it up if anybody has any questions. And I have my my trusty colleague, Miss Christina Gauthier, who is our public relations extraordinaire out of our Albuquerque office. So she is helping today with our questions in the chat. So if I'm seeing if there are any questions, Christina, that you're seeing in the chat, please let me know.
Yeah, and I think anybody that's calling in, I think it's *6 to raise your hand if you're on the phone and not on the app.
And if you're a little shy and don't want to speak, we do have the chat function as well if you want to type in a question for any of our panelists today. Okay, well, we might not have any questions. But before we go ahead and conclude, Greg, is there anything that you would like to share with members, as our current executive director?
Well, if I can, I think I skipped over one of your questions, Christina, and that was the 3 things that I wanted Pera members to know. And you heard Alice and Terry both say it. Pera is a great deal. It is. It's tough. I mean, once our contribution increases are completely phased in, it's almost 11% coming out of your check to Pera. So I know that's a hit, but at the time that you're gonna retire, and I know people don't think you're ever gonna retire, you're not gonna work with the state or with government. It does pay off in the long term. You're not nobody's gonna get rich off of Pera, but or government, but you can live a pretty nice life, and I think you see that with both Elias and Terry, just because of the Pera benefit, and I'm sure other pensions or savings that they've had. The other thing I want Pera members to know is we do send out annual statements, so please do pay attention to those. Each the fall, usually September of each year. Just check your information. We rely on the employers to provide that to us, but nobody knows their situations like you do. So please just keep a close eye. It's easier if there's an issue that we know about it and we can fix it up front, instead of getting to the point of filing your retirement paperwork and we say, oops, there's something that happened 20 years ago that we need to get addressed. And finally, if there's any questions, call Pera. We get a lot of stories where I was talking to my coworker, or we had a meeting at work and they're saying this. Everybody's situation is different, and just call Pera. We know your situation. We can explain it, and everybody is unique. So just call us. We're here to help. Call, email. I think we do chat now. We can do Zoom. We can. Christina and her team is out in the field doing seminars. So we're here to help, and just know that you've got a dedicated team working to make sure Pera is solvent, that your data is secure, and once you're done with your career, that we're going to be here. So Pera is we are truly a life partner to our members. We have people starting at 18 that retire, and you're looking 60, 70 years of relationship. So So we just want our members to know that we're here for you. And
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Greg. And we always, like we mentioned earlier, we are a life, or how Greg mentioned earlier, we are a life partner, and New Mexico is so small. And again, too, you could be at family parties and you're sitting next to your favorite aunt and she's telling you, mijito, you are going to retire with this amount and at this pension factor. And as much as your tia is probably always right and you love her to death, she's probably not going to be correct. So like Rick said, we always encourage members to reach out if you have any changes to your address or name changes, etc. We get it, life happens. We definitely encourage you to reach out and pay attention to your annual member statements. And thanks to Terry, we now have our Rio system. So you are able to get online and create an account, and like Alice said, get up in the middle of the night and be able to access your information that is available for members. So we definitely encourage you all to definitely partake in Rio. So before we go ahead and end today's seminar, we just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a 75th anniversary website where we are posting historical information about Pera, pictures, video links to all of our recorded videos that we've had as part of our seminar series. So we definitely encourage you all to go on and visit. Our next seminar is going to be on July 7th at noon. We try to keep these during the lunch hour for members. So hopefully you can be a part of that. And we're going to be giving you one tip to financial freedom as an active member. So hopefully you all can join us as well. If you do go onto our website, you will be able to get all of the Zoom information to participate in that next seminar as well. We're social, so besides Pera being out in the public this year, we definitely encourage you all to follow us on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. So be our friend. I promise we're not going to stalk you and we're not going to see what you're doing this weekend or what donuts you're eating. So we definitely encourage you to follow us on social media. As always, if you ever have any questions, you can always give us a call or email us. We do have our 2 locations, one in Santa Fe and one in Albuquerque. We did recently have a soft opening, so our offices are open to the public. So no need to make an appointment. You can come in and talk with one of our representatives on any questions that you have. We are also going to be offering our in-person seminars as well in Santa Fe and in Albuquerque. So if any of you ever want to stop by during that time, we can definitely answer your questions there. And then if you have any forms to send, you can always email those to us or fax them, or you can drop them off at our locations. If you don't feel like talking with anyone, we do have secure drop boxes that are located in the front where you can drop those off as well. And like I mentioned earlier, we do now have that feature in Rio. If you do have an account, you can upload any Pera forms as well, and that'll come directly to Pera. So definitely encourage you all to go that route. And then this kind of just concludes our seminar. I like this meme, but I kind of don't, because I love glazed donuts. But don't be a glazed donut, be a gourmet donut. So that is our piece of advice for everybody today. And just reminding everyone, like Greg said, we're here for you all. We're your life partner. If you ever need anything, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you so much to Ms. Herder and Mr. Slattery and Greg for being on with us as well and letting us just kind of pick your brain on your time as executive directors. And myself being a Pera employee and a member, I think on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for starting this wonderful benefit for all of us and for keeping it going and allowing us to partake in one of the top pension plans in the country. So can't thank you enough for that. So thank you again for being on with us.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Well, we're gonna, sorry, Greg, go ahead.
No, I said thank you. Thank you to Alice and Terry for joining us. This was great.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Great. Well,
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And then if anybody wants to stay on and ask some questions, you're more than welcome to. So thank you all so much.